Good people, great people, God's people. How y'all doing, man? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? We are back. We back on the mic, yo. I'm so excited, bro. We back on the mic, man. We back on the mic. We back here going crazy, man. Welcome to another episode of your favorite podcast, your content creator's favorite podcast, and whoever else's favorite podcast that you share with, The Antidote. It's been a minute, y'all. It's been about 9 months. It's been about 9 months since the last time I hopped on a mic, G. And the reason being is because I had to make a couple of transitions in my personal life. You know what I'm saying? I had to go from doing my own thing, being my own, solopreneur journey for the past 3 years, transitioning back into the 9 to 5. The reason being is because I'm paying for school out of pocket, y'all. I'm getting these last couple of classes together so I can finally be licensed in the state of Pennsylvania. So for that, I had to get some more consistent income. But y'all know, at the end of the year, we back to the solopreneur journey. So that's the reason why I was off of the mic for so long. But we back today, man. We back today. And today's episode is called Black Love is a Choice, right? Now, I know that for the longest period of time, even up still to this day, we've been talking a lot about, black relationships, what they look like, how they operate. And I don't know about y'all, but I'm tired of hearing the 50-50 conversations. I'm tired of hearing who's going to bring what to the table. I'm tired of hearing who hates who the most. I'm tired of hearing all of these things because these things are not rooted in what it is that is actually going on in the black community, right? It is the symptom. It is not the cause. We are not looking at the different variations of what it is that has transpired within our community in order to create these types of conversations, right? So today we're gonna have this conversation, G, because I told y'all when I came back to the mic, I was gonna be very intentional about what it is that I was placing on YouTube. I was gonna be very intentional about what it is that I'm placing on my platforms. I was gonna be extremely intentional about how it is that I carried this conversation. And I've been doing a lot of research, y'all. I've been talking to different people. I've still been talking to my clients. I've been reading books. As always, I always got a book on me. You feel what I'm saying? So we're gonna be using this book to contextualize this conversation a little bit. But yes, black love is a choice, right? And what do I mean when I say black love is a choice? In a lot of different ways, blackness is a socio-cultural entity that is not only dynamic, but it exists in a number of different intersections, right? Whether you be black in heterosexual, black in the LGBTQIA community, a black man, a black woman, at the end of the day, you are still black, right? And your blackness creates a particular dynamic that you have to navigate through as you are going through the world, as we are going through society. Whether or not we want to acknowledge it is irrelevant. It is the reality of our situation, right? But I think that when we talk about relationships in the black community, we focus a lot on romantic relationships, a lot. Like the primary meat of the conversation that comes as it relates to black relationships is romantic relationships. That's genuinely all that we talk about. I mean, we'll have flickers of conversations here and there about, how to create better families, how to engage in community building, how to do all of these different things. But the largest weight that we place on black love is romantic relationships, right? So I kind of want to diversify the conversation a little bit as it relates to what it is that I mean when I say that black love is a choice. So first and foremost, when we talk about love, I don't believe that love is a noun, right? Love is a verb, and love is something that you actively do. Love is something that you actively build upon. Love is something that you actually continue to maintain over time as the environment or as you change, right? So we cannot identify love as an object, because if we identify love as an object, then we lean into objectification, whether it be objectification of the self or objectification of others, right? And I think a lot of times when we look at love as an object, we begin navigating within this space of objectification. We begin navigating within this space of, oh, what I do is more valuable than who it is that I am. The performance that I present is more valuable than the entity that is me as a person, right? So I was on the what was it called? Not express yourself, black man. I was on Affirmations for Black Men with Miss Nicole Glass. Shout out Miss Nicole Glass. And on that platform, I said that we tend to fall in love more with somebody's performance than their purpose. Or we tend to fall more in love with who somebody pretends to be rather than who it is that they are. And folks will say, well, Odie, how do I discern the difference? Or how do I know whether or not somebody's performing? How do I know? We're going to get to that part of the conversation in a minute. I want to start with self-love, right? I want to start with being real and being genuine and being authentic with the self, right? Because when we talk about love as a verb, right? In this book by Bell Hooks, it's called Salvation. If y'all haven't read it, I suggest y'all read it. If y'all haven't got it, I suggest y'all grab it. But in this book, Bell Hooks identifies the love ethic, the love ethos, as respect, care, knowledge, and responsibility. Once again, the love ethos is respect, care, knowledge, and responsibility, right? Respect, care, knowledge, and responsibility. Do we respect the self? Do we care about the self? Are we responsible about the self? And do we continue to immerse ourselves in self-knowledge? Right? Now, am I stipulating or am I attempting to say that self-love can replace romantic love, or can self-love replace platonic love? No, that would be a foolish thing for me to say as a clinician, because I know that human beings are social creatures, right? But I firmly believe, as an Afrocentric scholar and as an Afrocentric clinician, that you are just as responsible for how it is that you show up in community as community is responsible for showing up to you. Right? I was on TikTok the other day and I saw this TikTok, and the young lady said, oh, damn, like, I forgot that in building community, I actually have to show up to community. Yes. In order for you to build community, you actually have to engage in community. You have to be communal. You have to show up. Right? But if you are not showing up to community in a way that is respectful to the self, or in a way that's authentic to the self, it is very difficult to receive these things in return. It is very difficult to engage with community from a place of love and from a place of engagement, right? Because what you are doing is that you are showing up in a way that is betrayal to the self. You are showing up in a way that betrays who it is that you are genuinely as an individual, because you believe that this performance will gather you more love. You believe that this performance will bring you more of what it is that you are looking for. But then the question becomes, how long can you sustain this performance? The question becomes, how much of this performance can you continue to engage in before you break down? Is this performance sustainable, right? And some of us have gotten so used to engaging in this performance that we have forgotten who it is that we are. We have worn this mask for so long that when we take this mask off and look in the mirror, we do not recognize who it is that we see, right? So when we talk about this idea that black love is a choice, choosing to love yourself in your totality first, right? So what does this look like in action? What does loving yourself and being responsible for yourself, caring yourself, and having respect for yourself look like in action? Well, once again, it depends on who it is that you believe yourself to be. It depends on what it is that you know as an individual comes from your perspective, right? So if we think about this in terms of intergeneration, if we think about this in terms of how it is that we have learned to perceive the world through our families, that is usually, for most people, the first place where it is that they've learned what love is. That is the first place where it is that they've learned how to love themselves based upon the feedback that they get from the people around them. But the reality of the situation is, y'all, once again, we are black. Once again, our blackness has a particular response from the environment that creates complexities that if we are not willing to understand, if we are not willing to respect, we will consistently be in a state of confusion. We will consistently be in a state of misalignment, right? Baba Kobe KK Cambone calls it cultural misalignment. And that cultural misalignment creates stress. That cultural misalignment creates that duality of person. That cultural misalignment creates that mask, right? It creates that invisibility, right? So what does removing this mask look like, or what does internalizing the actual self look like? Well, it starts with dealing with that trauma, y'all. It starts with respecting yourself enough to stop betraying yourself when it comes to acknowledging how it is that you've been harmed, right? Self-respect is not about demanding, right? It's not about, oh, you got to treat me da-da-da, woo, woo, woo. No. Self-respect is about communicating what it is that you will and you will not tolerate in a way that does not intentionally harm others in order to show them that this is something that you will defend. Harming others is unnecessary in the space of self-respect. It does not require that, right? But in the space of self-respect, it does require you to acknowledge when it is that you feel as if though you are having to do something that is betraying the self. Self-respect comes from making decisions that are difficult, but in the long run will create a healthier self, will create a healthier you, right? So I think this is a fantastic time to do this advertisement, y'all. So my podcast is sponsored by me and my Patreon, right? So my Patreon is called The Selfish Community. And in The Selfish Community, this is a group coaching outlet where you are able to, once again, learn how to engage in higher levels of self-respect, learn how to process through your trauma, learn how to stop betraying yourself, disrupt those trauma patterns, and finally put you and your healing first. Right? So on the screen, you can see that my Patreon has live bi-weekly mental wellness masterclasses where we review all of these different aspects. You have access to my Selfish course, which is 30 written modules and 10 video modules that each teach you a different layer of how it is to disrupt these trauma patterns and learn how to put your healing first. You got weekly mental health resource drops. So I got a whole bunch of different mental health tools that I got lying around everywhere. I just thought, yo, I'm just going to drop it to my people in my Patreon community. And when I begin accepting one-on-one coaching, folks, at the end of this year, at the end of 2025, you will have a members only session rate, right? My normal session rate is much higher than my member session rate. So once again, if y'all go in the description of this YouTube video, check out my Patreon, you will be supporting one of your favorite content creators, because I already know if I wasn't one of your favorite content creators, you wouldn't be here. So once again, my podcast is sponsored by me. I'm an independent artist out here, y'all. Once again, please consider joining the Patreon. And once again, the part of the Patreon, or the purpose of the Patreon, is to help you stop self-betraying, is to help you disrupt those trauma patterns, and it is to help you learn how to finally put your healing first. So once again, y'all, as I said previously, the idea of self-love is becoming more aware of how it is that the way in which you learned what love looks like from your family is impacting how it is that you show up in community. Now, am I saying that the way that it is that you learned how to love from your family is totally incorrect? Absolutely not, right? But I am saying that we have to be able to take the good with the bad, right? And in a lot of different ways, us being black has created different psychological and sociological effects that at times can make it difficult for us to engage in trust and vulnerability, right? So for example, I'm gonna give y'all a perfect example. Growing up, I had a lot of friends who would say this whole thing about, yeah, you know, if I open up too many boxes of cereal, I get my ass beat. What? What do you mean you can't mix Captain Crunch and peanut butter toast crunch, bro? What do you mean if you want Fruit Loops and you know, and Frosted Flakes in the same bowl, you can't do that? I am revealing a little bit of my big backery. It's okay. Fuck y'all, right? But once again, I never understood that premise. I never understood that concept because I came from a home where I did not have to deal with food insecurity. But a lot of my friends came from places where financial insecurity precluded their parents' ability to engage them with love. Right? I have a number of peers who had to worry about whether or not they were going to be able to take a hot shower. And for their parents, that precluded their ability to love, that precluded their ability to engage with them in a way that was fulfilling. It precluded them from engaging with their children in such a way where they were respectful, they were caring, they were knowledgeable, and they were empathetic. Right? A lot of man, y'all know just as much as I know, growing up, and watching the comedians, even watching the comedians on Comic View, a lot of the conversations was about, oh, I used to get beat for this. I used to get beat for that. I used to get beat. And it's like, yo, I tell my clients all the time that a number of us as black people have come from environments where behavior change was predicated by utilizing shame and guilt. A number of us come from spaces where if we did not perform appropriately, we were shunned, we were exiled, right? We were made to feel as if though our personal value was inefficient. We were made to feel as if though who it is that we were as people was not worth engaging in. And for a lot of us, we have continued to live our adult lives in the same vein. We have continued to pursue our search for love and our search for community from this identity of being wounded, from this space of being harmed, right? So I've said it in another one of my podcasts back in season 1, I think, season 1 or season 2. I said we look for what we lack. We look for what we lack, right? Because once again, a number of us come from spaces of lack. A number of us come from spaces where we are not able to navigate, or we are not able to engage in such a way where our genuine selves would be given to, right? Does that make sense? So when we go into our adult spaces, or when we come into our adult lives, it then begins to wear on us, y'all. It begins to wear down. It begins to make us feel as if though we are not worthy, right? So what happens after that point, Odie? What do? How do we then stop ourselves from feeling as if though we are not worthy? Once again, we have to identify that trauma. We have to respect ourselves enough to engage in such a way where we are appropriately, when I say appropriately, I mean, once again, going to therapy, right? Engaging in therapeutic spaces, approaching community in such a way where we are fulfilling our needs, right? Engaging in that appropriately, engaging with ourselves in such a way where we are respecting, loving, and being careful with ourselves, right? So on top of that, when we talk about love in the Black community, we tend to talk about it from the perspective of transaction, right? What have you done for me lately? Once again, looking for what it is that we lack, y'all. Looking for what it is that we were not able to obtain. Looking for what it is that we did not have when we were younger, right? Not being able to have that security, not being able to have that foundation, right? And I'm not saying that this is all of us. I'm not saying that this is the song of Blackness. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that a number of us have had this experience, and we are leading in love with this regard. We are leading in love with this dynamic. As a matter of fact, y'all know me. I'm always gonna pull a quote, G. I'm always gonna pull a quote. As soon as I read this quote, I was like, yo, this is crazy. So in the second chapter, first sentence of this book called Salvation by Bell Hooks, it says, y'all is going to be, listen, I'm going to pull it directly from the book because I don't want to misquote it. Chapter 2, We Wear the Mask. Page 18, line 1. It says, in the diaspora, most Black people's relationship to love has been shaped by the trauma of abandonment. I'm going to read it one more time. Chapter 2, We Wear the Mask, page 18, line 1, says, in the diaspora, most Black people's relationship to love has been shaped by the trauma of abandonment. We ask ourselves, why do we stay in relationships so long that don't serve us? We ask ourselves, why are we continuously people-pleasing? We ask ourselves, why do I consistently go back to somebody who I know that means me no good? Because we are afraid of being abandoned. Similarly, on the other side of this pendulum, why do I hold so fast to my defense mechanisms? Why is it so easy for me to cut people off? Why is it so easy for me to just isolate, even though I know that this isolation hurts? Because we are afraid of being abandoned. We're afraid of being left. Fathers not coming back home. Fathers in the home being emotionally absent. Mothers being overwhelmed and overworked. Therefore, they have no ability to give us in such a way where we feel loved and supported. Mothers who have overgiven themselves and then turn around and give us the brunt of their emotions, of their bitterness and resentment about having to give to everybody else and having no space to give to themselves, leaving us questioning whether or not my mother actually loves me. We are afraid of being abandoned, whether it be physically or emotionally. So we move in that hypervigilance. We move in that fear of being abandoned. We move within that space of survival because for us, that's what's real. For us as black people, in order for us to even be able to live in such a way where we are stable, we have to give so much of ourselves over to the pursuit of the almighty dollar. So where does that leave us as children? Where does that leave us as members of the community? Where does that leave us as individuals who are attempting to rebuild community? If you call 5 people in your phone right now, the top 5 people in your phone right now, and you ask, hey, can we do a community building event, exercise, what have you? The first thing that they'll say is, I have to check to see whether or not I gotta work. I have to check to see whether or not I have the time resource. And once again, I'm not saying that this is something that is bad. I'm saying that this is the reality for us as black people. We have to consistently find a way to supplement our realities. We have to consistently find a way to make sure that we do not experience the same financial wounds or the same financial traumas that we experienced when we were younger, if we did. A number of us are the sole providers for our families. Some others of us have people in the diaspora that are waiting for us for our check to hit so we can Western Union them some of that money. This is where the 50-50 conversation comes from, y'all. This is where this who's gonna do what conversation comes from, y'all. A lot of us have been broke. A lot of us have been destitute. A number of us have come from households where we had to choose between food and lights. Right? But once again, on the other side of that, a number of us have come from places where we believe that material worth and material possession is a fantastic shoe-in for love. Once again, at the top of this conversation, I said we need to be careful about objectifying love. I said at the top of this conversation, we need to be very careful about what it means when we identify love as a thing instead of an action. Because if we identify love as a thing, that means that I can give you money, I can give you a car, I can give you a Birkin and say, I love you. And then turn around and disrespect you. And then turn around and not care about what it is that you're saying to me. I pay all the bills. So why is your emotional disposition, why are you upset? You got a house, a roof over your head, clothes on your back, and food on your table. What do you have to be upset about? And I know that sounds familiar. I know it does. Because those are probably the same words that were said to you when you were trying to say to your mother or your father, hey, I just want you to spend some time with me. I just want you to love on me. These bills is love. This food is love. This house is love. These clothes is love. They are loving gestures and I appreciate them, but that's not what I need from you. I don't need transaction. I need being. I need space. I need conversation, right? So once again, all of these things have happened intergenerationally and all of these things have happened over time. And it creates an environment where it's very difficult for us to say to each other as black people, yo, I trust you to not harm me. I trust for you to not put me in a space where my emotions will be compromised. I trust you to be who it is that you say that you are. Because a lot of us have spent so much time pretending because our value was attributed to what it is that we can do instead of who it is that we were or who it is that we are. Odie, what do we do with this? Right? Why do you then say that black love is a choice? Because it is. Because knowing that all of these things are evident, knowing that all of these things are true, black love is not just about transaction. Black love is not just about pretty feelings. Black love is not just about having those butterflies in your stomach. Yes, all of these things are real, but so are the environmental stresses, right? So are the bottom line dollars Black men and black women on average make similar amounts of money. On average. On average. Right? On average, black women are more likely to be higher educated. On average, black men are less likely to be employed over a longer period of time. On average, we tend to inherit poverty through black men. On average, all of these things look this way. Economic viability is necessary, but it does not replace love. It cannot replace love. Because if it could, a lot of our favorite entertainers, a lot of our favorite entrepreneurs, a lot of our favorite people who got a whole lot of money would not be experiencing the problems that they experience in love. They would not. Right? So, Odie, what does it look like to love openly? What does it look like to love without limits? What does it look like to love in such a way where somebody can come to me and say to me, I love you fully. I love you firmly. I love you thoroughly. I'm going to say this to y'all in such a way where I need y'all to really listen to what it is that I'm saying. I need you to genuinely listen to what it is that I'm saying. There is a difference between a standard and an expectation. I'm going to say that one more time. There is a difference between a standard and an expectation. Matter of fact, I'm going to do y'all one better. There's a difference between a boundary and an expectation. A boundary is something that you utilize in order to ensure that you are not harmed, something that you utilize in order to guide your own behavior, and something that you utilize in order to structure how it is that you can continue to make sure that your growth proceeds beyond a point where you have been traumatized. Those are boundaries. Expectations is what you believe something should look like, how you believe something should operate, and how it is that you believe things should come to you, right? A number of our expectations are based upon white nationalist ideals and white supremacist orientations. I'm going to say this one more time. A number of our expectations are based upon white supremacist ideals and white nationalist orientations. Odie, what do you mean by this? I've said this in one of my threads. A number of black men expect black women to behave like white women, and a number of black women expect black men to behave like white men. Odie, what do you mean by this? Irrespective of our individual, when I say individual black women and black men, irrespective of our individual issues, our individual experiences within the larger society as black people, black women as it relates to their historical servitude beyond themselves, and black men as it relates to their economic lockouts despite their own efforts, we still expect each other to overcome these things with no recompense, with absolutely no recall, with absolutely no concern about how it is that this weighs on us psychologically and emotionally. We have drunk the Kool-Aid of a post-racial society, ladies and gentlemen, and that is detrimental overall. It is wildly detrimental, right? The expectation of a wholly submissive without question woman and the expectation of a wholly providing man without complaint are unrealistic expectations. Why? Because once again, we are getting back into the point of objectification. You are looking at your partner as an object of transaction rather than an individual who is having a human experience. I've ruffled a lot of y'all fellas. That's okay. That's all right. That's why we're here, right? You can continue to have these expectations of your partner. You can continue to perceive that this is the way that it is supposed to be. I'm not saying that you're right or wrong. What I'm saying is that that expectation is very difficult to obtain for the regular black person. It just is. Based upon a number of socio-political factors, that is a very difficult dynamic for us to obtain. So then what do we do in the interim? We blame each other for how it is that these factors have become reality. We blame each other for not doing what we're saying. You too masculine, or you too feminine, or you doing this or you doing that, without acknowledging that person's humanity. because it makes it easier for us to assert our expectations as the universal rule. It makes us easier to project what it is that we desire ideologically as something that, once again, should be the status quo. But have we ever stopped and asked ourselves, how is this person sitting across from me experiencing their humanity within their blackness? Have we ever stopped and asked ourselves, yo, is this even what this person wants to do? Have we asked en masse, black men and black women, have we asked each other, yo, how does it feel to have been given this role, given this script to play, and then if you don't play it, you're rejected? How does this operate for you? How does this feel for you? And how can we edit this script? How can we go back to the writer's room? How can we recontextualize what it means to exist in black love romantically when we know that the average black person works more than 40 hours a week, has to consistently work more than 40 hours a week in order to make sure that the ends meet, and has to make sure that either somebody in their family, somebody in their extended family is okay. They have to engage in a caregiver role. How do we navigate these spaces? Because that's the reality. That is the reality. Once again, them top 5 people in your phone, if you call them and ask them, yo, how are you feeling right now? How are you doing? Tell me about what's going on in your family. One of those 5 or 4 things is going to get hit. They're going to talk about somebody that they got to take care of. They got to talk about all the overtime that they got to work. They got to talk about how it is that these bills got to get. They have to talk about all of these things. They're going to talk about all of these things because this is their human experience within their blackness. But once again, when we start having these conversations around romantic relationships in the black community, we are heavily transactional. Why? Because we want somebody to remove us from our reality. We want somebody to help us carry this weight and not remind us of how heavy it is on us. So we ask them to be quiet. That cannot stand, ladies and gentlemen. It cannot stand. It will not stand. It will not work. It is not a sustainable form of love. It is not a sustainable form of engagement. It is not. Right? Which goes into my point of choosing love versus chasing potential. A lot of us, a number of us, men and women, black men and black women, we chase the potential of love instead of engaging in building an actual love. What do I mean by this? Men and black women tend to chase potential differently. They tend to chase potential differently. Black women tend to chase potential from the perspective of what it is that he will grow into. Black men tend to chase the potential of how much I can get her to submit to me based upon how much I am able to identify what it is that she is willing to submit to. Once again, we are looking for those gender scripts. We are looking for those things, right? We have been conditioned to believe that this is what it is that is supposed to happen instead of acknowledging what is happening right at this moment in time, right? I've asked a number of people, when you are engaging with your partner, right, in my profession, when you are engaging with your partner, how often do you ask your partner, what can I do to support you in this moment? How can I support you in this moment? What does that look like for you, right? A number of us want to show somebody else how it is that we would like to be loved and love them in that way, instead of asking them what love looks like to them and then giving it to them in that way. I'm going to say that one more time. A number of us like to love other people in the way that we would like to be loved, so that we do not have to go through the uncomfortable feeling of telling them what it is that we need in order to feel loved, instead of asking the person or having a conversation about what love looks like to us and then saying whether or not we have the capacity to meet that. I recognize that a lot of black folks do not have hard conversations around love. We don't. We do not. Because a number of us do not come from environments where those conversations were modeled. We do not have conversations about what it is that I need in order to feel love. We talk about love languages. We talk about all of these different things, but we play around with them. Oh, my love language is off. My love language is physical touch. It's like, no, bro. No. Have you actually sat down and asked yourself, once again, what do I feel as an individual brings me the most amount of affirmation? What actually makes me feel as if though I am appreciated as a person? For example, myself, I need words of affirmation, bro. I need them. I need words of affirmation. I need somebody to tell me you are doing a good job. Why? Because internally, I question it a lot. I question it a lot. Right before I got on this podcast, I told my girlfriend I'm feeling a little nervous because I don't know if it's going to go well. This beautiful woman said to me, you are going to do excellently. Right? For me, acts of service is not, I need you to clean up my house. Acts of service is, I really need some assistance with what it is that's on my plate, and I'm going to ask you for this because I feel like if you are willing to do this for me, that means that you actually care about what it is that I'm working on. But once again, we run around here and we say stuff like, oh, I'm not going to teach nobody how to love me. That shit don't even make no sense. That doesn't even make any sense. It logically, it makes no sense. How is somebody going to come to you in such a way where they're going to give you what it is that you need in love and you refuse to tell them? You refuse to tell them. You make them jump through hoops in order to understand what you need in order for you to feel loved. But then you get upset when you don't get it. That's because you probably come from a background where even if you told somebody, they would not give it to you. You are afraid of being abandoned. Right? I watched that video that was going viral. That brother was saying why it is that he genuinely believes that men cheat. And he said straight up and down, he was like, a number of men are afraid to put their all into somebody and then be harmed on the back end. I cannot tell y'all how many men I've been like, yo, how come you all do not communicate to your partners? And what they say to me is that I'm afraid that they're going to use it on me. You are afraid of being abandoned. You are afraid of being harmed. You are afraid of being abandoned. You are afraid of being harmed. So once again, when I say that black love is a choice, love by itself is a choice. Black love is a conscious choice. Black love is a conscious choice. Black self-love is a conscious choice. Black other love is a conscious choice. Black community love is a conscious choice. Why? Because black love is difficult. Not because we are difficult people to love, but because of the extenuating factors that exist outside of our environments in which we attempt to create love. That is why. That is why. And a number of us as black people, we have gotten to a point where we feel like we should not have to carry this struggle. Right? And I'm not talking about engaging in struggle love. I'm not a champion of that. But what I am saying is that we have gotten to this point where we believe somehow that at any point in time, if something becomes difficult, whoa, it's not supposed to look like this. It's not supposed to operate like this. It's not supposed to be like this. You are attempting to identify love as an object instead of a verb. You are attempting to identify love as an object instead of a verb. You are chasing the potential of perfection instead of identifying the purpose of procedural conversation. Instead of understanding how it is to engage in the skill of building. Any love that you engage in, you have to build and maintain. A number of people want to walk into a fully furnished house instead of doing what it takes in order to put the furniture in there that they want. Once again, black love is a choice, a conscious choice, right? A number of us don't want to pay the cost to be the boss. A number of us do not want to pay the cost to be the boss. What do I mean? Y'all, love costs ego. It costs defense mechanisms. It costs independence. And when I say it costs independence, I don't mean that you have to swallow yourself up into another individual. No. But in order to, once again, foster that vulnerability, to foster that trust, to foster that engagement, there's a part of you that has to learn how to be interdependent. There's a part of you that has to learn, hey, this person is going to come with their own baggage. There is no such thing as somebody coming to you healed. There's a such thing as somebody coming to you understanding how it is to manage their own trauma or manage their own self. But there's going to be a point where that person's capacity to manage themselves might be compromised. How do you navigate in that space? Right? How do you seek to understand? How do you seek to care? How do you seek to respect? How do you seek to know? How do you seek to engage in the love ethic that Bell Hooks is talking about? Right? Because once again, that love ethic is respect, care, knowledge, and responsibility. Oh, I don't want to be responsible for nobody else. Listen. You are not responsible for that person's emotional responses, but you are responsible for how it is that you impact that person. You are not responsible for that person's emotional responses, but you are responsible for how it is that you impact that person. Are you going to be respectful enough of yourself to manage how it is that you impact? How do you approach this space with integrity? That is what love, real love, working love, that is what it costs. That is what is necessary. And once again, a lot of us as black folk have been taught one or two things. Us as black men have not been socialized to be caretakers because we've been identified that as feminine. And a number of black women have been taught to give that to everybody else but themselves. Neither one of these things are love. I'm going to say this one more time. A number of us as black men have been socialized that caring, emotional, and nurturing techniques are feminine. That is the reason why we do not take care of ourselves. That is the reason why we do not engage with ourselves in such a way where we are able to regulate our emotions. That is the reason why we do not ask for emotional support. That is the reason why we do not ask for people to care about us. That is the reason why we do not ask ourselves what we need in order to feel cared for outside of somebody behaving as a slave. Because once again, we've identified love as transaction. For black women, have been taught to give that to everybody else but themselves. So when it comes down to actually asking for what it is that you need, there's guilt. When it comes down to now, I'm just going to pull everything to chest and not give nothing to nobody. Once again, none of these things are love. None of them. None of them. Once again, love costs ego. Love costs defenses. And love costs independence. Because once again, in order to foster that vulnerability, in order to foster that trust, there is interdependence. Can I trust you enough to see me as a full human being, to see me in my naked humanity and not judge me for it? Can I trust you enough that if I were to fall, you would help me get back up? A number of us are missing those things. A number of us do not know how to foster those things. A number of us do not have the environment in which to foster these things. And a number of us place way too much emphasis on romantic relationships to foster these realities. Way too much. Way too much. Because we believe that a romantic relationship is supposed to solve all these problems, and it does not. Romantic relationships are not the only form of love. They're not. But yet we place so much emphasis on these things that as soon as somebody gets it wrong, we are now operating from spaces of defense. We are now operating from spaces of, well, this shit, I'm never going to do this again. We are operating from spaces of, I'm just coming in here to see what it is that I can get from this, instead of what it is that I can put into it. We have all these tests. We got all these, what, who, how can I? All of these things are transactional. All of them are transactional. They are transactional because, once again, a number of us as black people come from spaces where we did not even have the currency to transact. A number of us as black people came from spaces where the resources were limited. A number of us as black people came from spaces where love looked like guilt, shame, and punishment. I'm doing this because I love you. I'm trying to prepare you for the real world. Now we're here and we still are woefully underprepared. Now we're here and we don't know how to build community because we have not been exposed in such a way where we want to be responsible for ourselves in that community. We're losing recipes and we've lost the plot. We are losing recipes and we've lost the plot. Because I've asked this question in the previous thread of mine. I said, yo, after the bills are paid, after you've been fed, and after you've been fucked, then what? Then what? Because once again, money, food, and sex all impact the lower part of your brain. They impact the reptilian brain. They impact the same part of the brain where drugs are processed. The nucleus accumbens, the reward pathway. You are looking for stimulation. You are not looking for love. You are looking to be stimulated. You are looking for a distraction. And once again, I understand. I get it. Being black is not easy. Being in spaces of racism, sexism, capitalism, and all of these different things are not easy. But to objectify your neighbor as a point of transaction in order for you to remove yourself from your own hellish landscape is wildly selfish and not in the way that I teach. You are commodifying another individual for your gratification. That is not love. That is abuse. That is not love. That is soul cannibalism. And there is no way that you can love yourself in that condition because there's a part of you that genuinely believes that you are entitled to this. Either that or you're so fearful that somebody's going to leave you that you leave them before they have a chance to do it to you. None of these things are love. All of these things are survival. All of them. All of them. Right? So then once again, the question becomes, Odie, how do we get to a point of love? The love ethos, bro. The love ethos. Respect, care, knowledge, and responsibility. Respect, care, knowledge, and responsibility. Start with the self. How do I approach myself? How do I speak to myself? How do I engage with myself? Have I found the child inside of me and said to the child inside of me, it's going to be okay? Have I built, not walls, but have I built spaces within myself that are secure? Right? Have I done a thorough moral inventory of the self? Have I explored my boundaries and see how it is that I can make them stronger, but also give people an opportunity to walk inside of my space? Do I identify my own space as sacred? Do I respect? Do I care? Am I knowledgeable? And am I responsible for myself? And how it is that I show up to community? Do I ask for what I need genuinely? Do I give people the opportunity to show up for me? Do I say to them, yo, I really need this? Or do I avoid that and do I pretend like I don't need shit and I put myself in detriment of self-care? Do I pretend like I don't know what it is that I need? Do I disrespect myself by consistently putting myself in situations where I know somebody's gonna fuck me over? Simply to say that I'm in a space of companionship, that's not love. Respect, care, responsibility. And I forgot the last one, just that fast. Once again, respect, care, responsibility. Hold on, y'all. I'm gonna get it, give me a second. Respect, care, knowledge, and responsibility. All right. Once again, love costs ego, defense, and independence. Showing up in your humanity instead of the performance that you believe will get you paid. And I never said that it was easy. I never said that this thing called love is easy. This is the reason why the title of the episode is Black Love is a Choice. You are choosing to do this. You are choosing to engage on this journey. You are choosing to navigate in such a way where at the end of this road, your humanity will be revealed. But what are you willing to sacrifice? What are you willing to let go of? I asked one of my clients in one of our sessions, I said, yo, if you were to put names on all of the bags that you carry, what would those labels say? Are you willing to let them go? Because some of us carry bags because we know eventually somebody's going to run past us and say, hey, do you need help with carrying those? Oh, yeah. Some of us continue to lack care for ourselves because we know that at some point in time, somebody's going to come and ask us, hey, do you need some care? Some of us choose to continue to engage in the performance and stay broken because it's easier. We know ourselves this way. Some of us choose to continue to place love on a pedestal and objectify it so that we know that nobody, including ourselves, will be able to reach it, so we don't have to face the disappointment of not receiving it. Some of us pretend like love doesn't exist because if we knew that it existed, that means that we would have to face the reality that we may not be getting it in the way that we feel like we should get it. We are all deserving of love. We are all deserving of being seen. We are all deserving of our realities being acknowledged. We are all deserving of that respect. We are all deserving of that care. But if you do not ask for it, we will not know how to give it to you. If you allow somebody to continue to harm you, then they will believe that that's how it is that you want to be treated. Black love is a choice. Love is a choice. It is a political, it is a social, it is a spiritual choice. And at the end of the day, to choose black love means to choose yourself. To choose black love means to choose your community. To choose black love means to, yes, involve yourself in some type of struggle. Not too much, but something. Because once again, strength does not come without resistance. You as an individual are going to have your own individual trials and tribulations. You as an individual are going to experience these difficulties. And when you sit and when you experience these difficulties and you ask yourself, I really wish there was somebody here who I could talk to. I really wish there was somebody here who I could engage with. I really wish there was somebody here who cared about me. In those moments, you are asking for love. But are you willing to reciprocate when it is your time? Or do you just hold on to it like a plaything? Do you continue to objectify it? Do you continue to disrespect it? Because once again, ladies and gentlemen, to love, to engage, to be vulnerable, to present, to be your human self is a choice. It's a choice. Ladies and gentlemen, we back on the mic, G. Yeah, y'all continue to come back every week, man. I haven't figured out what day I'm going to consider. I might just keep it on Sundays at 5 p.m., man. It's a nice little cool time. You know, I'm starting to get, back in my groove. I'm starting to, get ready for the week. X, Y, Z, and A, B, and C. This is a fantastic time slot. So we might just continue to rock out on Sundays at 5 p.m., y'all. We might just continue to do it this way. But once again, good people, great people, God's people. I'm so excited to be back, G. And I know y'all excited for me to be back. We're going to run this whole season, man. We're gonna be running it. We're going to be doing it. We're going to be going through. We're going to be talking about a lot of topics. I'm excited about the topics that's coming up this season, man. We're going to go crazy. But, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the close of this episode. For my folks on Instagram Live, the replay will be on YouTube. For my folks on YouTube, I appreciate y'all joining the live stream. But as always, good people, great people, God's people. Peace, love, soul, and butter rolls. I'll see y'all next time. Peace.